Alright, YouTube, this is Acid Roots. I'm going to review Lloyd Banks' debut album, The Hunger for More. So basically, I reviewed Get Rich or Die Trying from 50 Cent, I reviewed Straight Outta Cashville from Young Buck, and I reviewed Thoughts of a Predicate Felon from Tony Ayo, but minus basically Get Rich or Die Trying and then Beg for Mercy. This is probably the best G Unit album from that 2000s era. I would say this is really good. I mean, I remember reading a professional review of this, and they said that it's like the third dose of what 50 Cent gave back in 2003, if the second helping was kind of Beg for Mercy. And that's kind of true. I mean, it's very similar to. Get Rich or Die Trying is just more refined, and I kind of like the taste that you get from that. G Unit really managed to perfect the radio singles that they dropped, which was definitely a good thing. So they had that down pat. They had the ability to chart down real well. Of course, they had some pretty stellar production most of the time, and just to kind of talk about some examples, like On Fire is probably about as good as In the Club by 50 Cent, and Karma is about as good as 21 Questions by 50 Cent. But then I would also have to say, I'm So Fly could basically be like a second tier version of PIMP. Maybe not quite as hooky as PIMP, but it's pretty close. I mean, they both, just the fact that Lloyd Banks was able to get to the third single when he was just, kind of a G Unit crew member. Like, he didn't have the instant star power of 50 Cent, but he did have lyrics. But yeah, just to kind of say, if Lloyd Banks was like, the second step after 50 Cent, it's good that he got to the third single, and he even got a pretty good promotional single also with the song Warrior. So 50 Cent didn't really do promotional singles, it didn't seem like. So that was kind of the things that he had those for, and just a bunch of other good surprises on there. Kind of like 50 Cent did with Many Men and uh, High All the Time, and some of those records, Patiently Waiting. So yeah, we'll talk about all that, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go through the singles just to kind of say, I mean, this is definitely a record that's worth checking out. I know I haven't messed with it for a while, but it's an above stellar release that's worth the attention, and it kind of showed. And I kind of wanted to review this to kind of showcase how it stands the test of time. Also, just to kind of say, 17 years later, how well it stands compared to the way it was, just based upon like shock value. And well, there's a term for it. It's like not having buyer's remorse. I definitely think by this stage you shouldn't be having buyer's remorse for Lloyd Banks, because it's just that good. I mean, it basically is just maybe like a tier less than Get Rich or Die Trying, which is basically a classic at this stage. So, talk about the singles. On Fire, like I said, was just like In the Club, only a little bit more sleek and kind of had more style to it, more refined, that sort of thing. Lloyd Banks is lyrical, so he can actually float on the song and do it real well. But then 50 Cent on the hook really helped. I mean, it just kind of made it a real nice club song for 2004. Still a good song. I still think it kept its appeal. Second single was what was it? It was either it was I'm So Fly, and that has a really good hook on there too. I mean, I wish that well, never mind, I was gonna say that. Yeah, I'm So Fly was good, had nice hook on there. It's real catchy, sing songy, kind of an earworm type thing. It's kind of how I wish more rappers would do the second single. I mean, this song didn't chart as high as On Fire or Karma, but it still kind of had. I like when singles chart on like the rap charts, but they're still actually good. And so I just encourage like actually putting the shit out, even if it doesn't chart, because it was still a good song. I kind of figured it would have hit like at least the top 40 of the Billboard 100 back then, but it didn't. But it's hooky, the beat's good, Lloyd Banks' lyrics are good on there. It's a good way to make like a single. It's a basically a really stellar second single. It's a nice blueprint for how to do it. And Karma was, of course, so many folks these days will have an R&B type song for the ladies with like a singer on the hook, and just the crooning and that sort of stuff. It's a good song. It's singable. Definitely good in that regard. I mean, Lloyd Banks knew how to do that sort of thing, so I'm glad for that. Not too many songs like that on this album. That's about, if you're looking for more songs like Karma, I don't really think there's much of any. So it's just the one time kind of situation. You don't really get like, I mean, the Nate Dogg songs, because Nate Dogg's not just an R&B singer. He also did like weed songs and thug songs and that sort of stuff. So really, Avant's the only R&B, but it's good. I mean, that deserved a chart in the top 20 of the Billboard 100s. That's another good example. But then the only other single or song with a music video that I remember was just Warrior, which had that was tacked on to like the end of the On Fire video, and it was just like a snippet of the song. It was pretty good. So that was good stuff. I like the hook on Warrior. It's good. That's another real solid song on there. Just the fact that Lloyd Banks had 4 music videos in circulation showed like the promotion that went behind this project and how explosive he was back in those days. I mean, he deserved like the publicity that he got. It just sucked that he ran out of steam so quickly, because when the South kind of started blowing up in 2006, I think it kind of messed with like his second album coming out. And then I also remember Lloyd Banks' father died, so that's kind of why he pulled the plug on Rotten Apple. But yeah, I mean, it really, this was, in a lot of cases, I would say most people would assume that this was his best album, and it's kind of just a bunch of mishaps that kind of messed with like his upswing in terms of what he was going to do. But that's just kind of thing. I mean, that happens a lot, you know, that's kind of the thing. But at least in 2004, he had some solid stuff. So now to talk about the rest of the album, and such. There's a lot of real good hooky songs on here that are kind of like, I don't know if you heard that. It was thunder. It's kind of raining around these parts, but yeah, I Get High has 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg. That's another, basically, that's a promising album cut. It's extremely good, just like Warrior. I really liked When the Chips Are Down. That one has a real nice beat. It really felt menacing and kind of brooding. I mean, Lloyd Banks, something that he does more than 50 Cent. If you like songs like Many Men, he has a handful of songs. Like the last 4 songs on this album have a lot of kind of like paranoia and kind of brooding and just shakiness. I mean, I don't think Lloyd Banks is fearful, but just kind of awareness of like foul things that happen. When the Chips Are Down kind of does that. Till the End kind of has, I mean, Nate Dogg sounds, he fits the song real well. Die One Day kind of has like a more upbeat but still kind of dark kind of feel to it. And then South Side Story tells stories about some people that Lloyd Banks has seen get killed or fucked up or something. That's kind of the situation, is that, you know, it's good to kind of have that sort of stuff, because I like Lloyd Banks' topical matter. I mean, some musicians just kind of have club songs and money songs, but Lloyd Banks, he had a series of things worth talking about. He taunts people on If You So Gangsta. He gets stoned on I Get High. He's a warrior on Warrior. He talks about his clique and Ain't No Click. Warrior Part 2 has Eminem. That's a good Posse song on there, and 50 Cent's also on there. Karma's for the Ladies. When the Chips Are Down is kind of, you know, when things get bad. And, you know, South Side Story is kind of a story song. So there's just a lot of good stuff on here. It's a real balanced project. I mean, sometimes you just get like certain things, and like for the most part the topics are just so uninteresting that it kind of turns you away, because it doesn't have anything. And it's always bad when you'll get like a song that'll say something like getting stoned or something like that, and then the song sucks, you know, or talking about like Coke and rum, but then the Coke and rum song kind of sucks. I mean, I don't like when that sort of stuff happens, but luckily Lloyd Banks doesn't do that. I mean, when the title is what you get and it has like a solid appeal towards it, interesting song topics, the songs that you get are actually interesting, and it's just balanced. I mean, he kept it basic and just right to the point, and it just has the appeal of it. And the guests don't drop the ball either. But to kind of talk now, I guess so I liked 10 songs 10 songs out of 14. So I'm going to give this album basically like an 8.5 out of 10. I mean, I feel like damn near everything on here was good, but the thing about it is the other G Unit members really didn't deliver. So I just felt like Lloyd Banks just did it by himself. I mean, really, despite the fact that he was in G Unit really didn't help bolster his appeal. He didn't really have that good of chemistry with them on this project. I mean, I didn't really enjoy Ain't No Click. Didn't really. It was not a good way of starting off the album. Playboy, the second song you hear on this album, wasn't that good either. It was not that interesting. It really felt like an East Coast kind of song, and with that kind of the stuff that Wu Tang and those type fellows do. But I mean, it's decent to listen to, but I wasn't really a fan of the production at all. The only thing that was really interesting about it was just the punchlines that Lloyd Banks did. If you are just here for the lyrics, you might like that song. But also DJ Wu Kid, G Unit's DJ, was on there. That's why I said G Unit. So, and then Work Magic by Young Buck really was not that stellar either. So, I mean, a lot of these just had like thumping beats, but not really in a good way. I mean, it didn't sound like, compared to like a song like I'm So Fly or I Get High or Warrior or When the Chips Are Down or Till the End or Warrior Part 2 in some cases. I mean, all of those had spectacular beats that just really kind of have like a main kind of state of appeal that goes along with it, but it just wasn't to be seen on some of these. I do feel like Lloyd Banks had his lyrical appeal for almost the whole project, but well, basically the whole project, but unfortunately, when the rest of the art that goes into the music doesn't match that, it kind of results in just kind of mismatched and kind of spotty. So that's kind of the situation that happens. That's the situation there. The only other song I didn't like was If You So Gangsta, which I didn't like the production on that song either. But like I said, I mean, if you were just here for lyrics, you might still like the songs I said I didn't like. But that's just kind of the thing, is they just happen to be the production was so bad on them, and the combination of just how they worked as a song was not matched in as melodic as some of his best ones. I mean, he basically has 4 singles on here, so there's plenty to digest considering that this is only a 14-song album. And speaking of which, another song I didn't like, but I'm not going to detract it from the score, is on the deluxe I tried listening to Just Another Day, which I really didn't like. That felt like just a leftover. I mean, I'm glad that that wasn't on the actual standard edition of the album. The hook wasn't good, the beat wasn't good, and it just felt like a lazy song, which is too bad because Nate Dogg has a song called Just Another Day that's spectacular, so it doesn't really do that title justice, but kind of thing. So I'm going to talk about a few of the songs I did like. Surprisingly, I liked the song South Side Story, which I almost said I didn't, but just the fact that he gave a pretty solid story of some of the hardships that he went through was good. I mean, I can tolerate horrid production, or at least not A-list production, when it actually has something that is relatable. Well, not relatable, but compelling. That's the word I'm looking for. Die One Day had a real good sample on there, and that was pretty stellar. I liked Lloyd Banks' approach. Trying to think, I really liked I Get High. I wish he would have done more smoking songs. Warrior was nice hook and that sort of stuff. Warrior Part 2 had good verses from Eminem, 50 Cent, and Nate Dogg was nice on the hook. When the Chips Are Down, I really liked the beat on that song. Till the End was really, that's just a creeping song. That's like the most dramatic song on here practically, and it worked. So Lloyd Banks knew how to do that. So all those different things kind of resulted in some spectacular stuff, but it still gets an 8.5 just because when the production kind of fails, the album falters. And I could have picked maybe like 1 or 2 extra songs that didn't quite have stellar production and really bogged this down to like a 6.5 or a 7, but luckily I did kind of like them. So, but that's just kind of the situation. So, 8.5 out of 10, and the social score I'll give an 8 also. Well, yeah, I'll give it an 8 just because it had 3 singles. I wonder what Lloyd Banks would have picked for like the 4th single if he would have kept going. I probably would have picked Till the End. I think that would have worked, but I don't really know what they would have picked. I don't know if I Get High would have worked. So you think about it almost as to what it would have been, but that's this kind of thing. Maybe he just would have picked Warrior. That's kind of the situation. But that's kind of how that goes. Is the chemistry is good. He has real good chemistry with Nate Dogg. He worked pretty well with Eminem. He's got it with 50 Cent, and the Snoop Dogg song was a great smoking song. So that's just some good stuff there. So yeah, I mean overall it's a great debut, but then at the same time, you basically want Lloyd Banks to have something that has like contemporary feel to it. As long as he's rapping on something that is not just a showcase of his lyrics for the most part, unless it really has something poignant to do, you're going to basically want him on more of like thumpers more so than just showcases. I mean, some people like his lyrics, but that's it's kind of an opinionated tangent there that you get into. So yeah.